The first time I saw her, she was flat on her back in the dust. The battlefield was already a graveyard of broken exosuits and shattered plasma shields, smoke rising like burnt offerings into the bruised sky. My unit had been scattered, half of us dead, the other half in retreat. I was running, carrying a plasma wound on my thigh and the bitter taste of defeat in my mouth, when I stumbled across her. At first glance, she looked like one of the many mercenaries caught up in this border conflict. Tall, armored, her long blade jutting from the ground beside her like a gravestone. She wasn't moving. "Another corpse," I muttered, limping past. Then her fingers twitched. Froze. No one twitched after a direct hit from a plasma cannon. I looked closer. Her chest plate was scorched black, but the faint glow of her breathing rig still pulsed in and out, a rhythm so steady it almost didn't match the carnage around us. I should have kept moving. Survival dictated it. But something about her, about the way she reached out, slow and stubborn, as if refusing to let death claim her, made me pause. I bent down, grabbed her wrist, and hauled her up. She was heavier than I expected, not from weight but from presence, as if gravity clung to her more tightly than to the rest of us. Her eyes opened, silver, sharp, not like any human I'd ever seen. "Why, help me," she rasped. I didn't have an answer. Before I could think of one, the sound of boots thundered around us. Imperial guards, 4 of them clad in their obsidian armor, broke through the smoke. They stopped when they saw her, and then to my shock they knelt. The beginning, the stranger in the dust. The guards didn't even glance at me. Their visors faced her, their gauntlet fists pressed to the ground in a salute reserved only for the highest bloodlines. "High One," one of them said, voice trembling through the comms. "We thought you lost." Her silver eyes shifted to me, then back to them. She leaned heavier on my shoulder but stood taller than I ever could. "I am not lost," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Take me from this place." I almost let go of her right there. High One. That title belonged to only one kind of person, a direct heir of the imperial dynasty, rulers of half the galaxy. And I just picked her up like a wounded soldier in the mud. The guards didn't move toward her though. They waited for her command. That's when I realized she hadn't let go of me. "This one saved me," she said. "He comes with us." I tried to protest, but her grip tightened like a shackle. And so, bleeding and bewildered, I was dragged into the orbit of someone I thought was just a warrior, until the galaxy began to bend around her. The middle. Secrets of the High One. Her name was Serenia Kale, and she wasn't just any heir. She was the heir, first in line to the imperial throne. The war zone where I'd found her was one of many outlying territories resisting imperial expansion. Officially, she had been traveling incognito to observe the front lines. Unofficially, someone had set her up to die. In the medical ward of the cruiser that carried us away, I watched her recover with unnatural speed. Her wounds closed as if time itself obeyed her. When I asked about it, she tilted her head at me. "You are curious for a common soldier. Common soldiers don't carry heirs through battlefields," I shot back. Her lips curved in what might have been a smile. "Then perhaps you are not so common." I should have been terrified. To help an imperial heir without permission was treason. To be noticed by one was worse. Attention from the dynasty rarely ended well. Yet she kept me close. Days turned into weeks as her cruiser crossed war-torn sectors. I learned more than I should have. That she could command entire fleets with a gesture, that the dynasty's guards whispered prayers in her presence, that planets bent their knees when she spoke. And still, she spoke to me as if I were her equal. One night, under the artificial starlight of the cruiser's viewing deck, I asked her, "Why me?" You have thousands of soldiers. Thousands of advisors. Why keep me around? Her silver gaze softened. Because you saw me as something more than a symbol. You saw me as a warrior who had fallen. And you lifted me up. I didn't know what to say. But something unspoken sparked between us then. An understanding, fragile and dangerous. The conflict. Betrayal in the throne world. By the time we reached the throne world, my fate was sealed. I was no longer a nameless soldier. I was the companion of the High One. Whispers followed me through the palace corridors. But danger followed too. Serenia's return disrupted the balance of power. The emperor, her father, had been grooming other heirs in her absence. Counselors who thrived in her supposed death now saw her reappearance as a threat. And someone somewhere still wanted her gone. The attempt came during the Feast of Ascension. 1,000 nobles dined in golden halls, music echoing through crystalline spires. I stood awkwardly at Serenia's side, a scarred soldier among jeweled dignitaries. Then the chandeliers shattered. Assassins dropped from the rafters, their plasma blades humming. Before I could draw breath, Serenia was already in motion. She fought like fire incarnate, every strike a blur, every movement commanding not just fear but reverence. Yet for all her power, one assassin slipped behind her, blade raised. I didn't think. Lunged. My arm caught the blow meant for her back. Pain seared white-hot through me, but my other hand closed around the assassin's throat and pulled him down. Serenia turned, her silver eyes flashing, and finished him with a single strike. When the chaos cleared, nobles cowered behind overturned tables. The guards arrived late, suspiciously late. Blood dripped from my arm, but Serenia's hand closed over mine, steady and sure. "This one is under my protection," she declared, voice ringing through the hall. "Harm him, and you harm me." The emperor's face darkened. The counselors whispered furiously. But none dared challenge her openly. That was the night I realized what she was truly fighting for. Not just her survival. Not just her throne. But the right to be more than a figurehead, to rule on her own terms. And somehow, impossibly, she wanted me by her side. The ending, the weight of the crown. Weeks later the final test came. Serenia was summoned before the Imperial Council to prove her claim. Her rivals demanded she demonstrate her authority in the ancient way, by summoning the obedience of the guard, a rite only the true heir could complete. The hall was vast, lined with 100 imperial guards in obsidian armor. The counselors watched like vultures. The emperor sat on his throne, silent and grim. Serenia stepped forward, radiant in ceremonial armor, but she faltered, just for a heartbeat. The obedience required more than bloodline. It required the recognition of loyalty, freely given. And loyalty, she told me once, was not something she could command. Had to be earned. She turned, her eyes finding mine in the sea of faces. My throat tightened. I was just a soldier. Just a man who had once pulled her from the dust. Yet when I stepped forward and knelt, the hall seemed to shift. One by one the guards followed. First 10, then 50, then all 100. Their fists striking the floor in thunderous unison. The counselors paled. The emperor's eyes narrowed. But it was undeniable. The obedience had been given.